All right, as you can see, it is Thursday, November 7th, at the auspicious time of 4:48 a.m., and that is 2 days following the presidential election, which apparently our insane population here in the United States of America decided that it would be a good idea to have a second term of a Donald Trump president, in addition to a House, Senate, and Supreme Court, all basically in the grip of Q-MAGAnon. And see the little image up there? That is the icon for, you can see the Trump peas there. Trump peas 2020. This is the icon for a video called In the Grip of Q-MAGAnon. And what we are doing is we are completing, or we are attempting to complete before we are completely censored, a series that justifies, not this one. Let's see, I'm on the wrong email. I don't know why it clicked me back to this one, but it did. Let's see if I can find when we are justifying the presence of that video with this title on YouTube, and disavowing that it violates the YouTube policy on harmful conspiracy theories. And we've been doing that for some time at about an hour take per 1, 2, 3, or perhaps 4 frames of this particular sci-fi comic narrative, which recounts and elaborates upon the events of January 6th and immediately prior to January 6th and the events following. As I mentioned, it's 2 days after the presidential election, and apparently Melania Trump has not requested to move into the White House early as she did in 2016. I believe in her memoir, what is it titled? Chanel Number M or something like that. She discusses the fact that Michelle Obama, rudely rebuked her request to move in a few weeks early in order to accomplish the required redecorating that the White House so badly needed. I guess the presence of too many former presidents, dogs and cats, made it an unlivable space for her. In any case, I understand that the Bidens are still there for the time being. No one's trying to evict them, and Roy Cohen's gone now and has been gone for some time, so he won't be performing that. And then additionally, Rudy Giuliani has lost his license to practice law, so he won't be moving the Bidens out early, I guess. I'm sure there's somebody out there still crazy enough to take a Trump case, but as I said, there's no hint of removal, tenant removal at this time. So we'll just see how that goes. That's the justification for this series, and the image that we're looking at today. This is Tommy Tuberville, and I didn't make that name up. That's actually his name. He's a senator from Alabama. I think he was first. I believe he was first elected in 2020 at the outset of this big mess, and you can see clearly that he is suffering from stage 77 of the Q-MAGAnon madness, or sometimes referred to simply as the Maganon madness, but that's the fisheye there, so it's clear he doesn't have an expression that readily, admits, anger, rage, lust, or violent intentions, but the fisheye is a dead giveaway. We'll start with, I believe this text here, it's out of focus. I'm sure it's out of focus for my viewers, but it's even out of focus, for me here. And I'm not even looking at a filtered, a comic filtered image. I'm looking at just the regular text, but I believe this is the article in the Constitution that refers to what happens on January 6th in the counting of the electoral ballots, and we've already actually looked at that, and we even deciphered an acronym in that look, and that was either in the grip of ThermostatAnon 9, or it was in the grip of ThermostatAnon 8 that we looked at that, and you can go back and find that out. But I believe this is the explanation for the procedures that occur on January 6th in the counting of the electoral ballots, and what kinds of what has to happen if there is an objection, and what types of objections are allowable and what types of objections are not. So we've already been through all of that. I believe that's what that is, and if it's something else, I'm not entirely sure what it might be. But let's begin with what Tommy Tuberville, whose name, once again, I did not make up. That's the name. The alliteration is in it, and the silliness is it belongs to him, not to me. Let's look at his statement, and then we can move on from there. I took adult Q education classes at the Trump University of Alternative Understanding, and that alternative understanding relates to a lot of the alt facts and alt info and alt truth and whatever alt else might have been presented by Kellyanne Conway. Was a big fan of alt facts and alt truth and the expression, those kinds of expressions, and it's certainly been part of the Q-MAGAnon campaign since the very outset, and probably prior to the outset of any of Trump's campaigns, and the relationship in the alt fact, alt truth, alt understanding universe, and some of these other universes should be obvious at this point, and certainly come into play in the meta-multi sci-fi comiverse that this particular story takes place in. But this individual, Tommy Tuberville, does not only exist in the meta-multi sci-fi comiverse, he exists in whatever our universe is called. I guess now it's just like the American fascist universe, since the fascists have all three of the branches of the government. And just to clarify what those three branches are, I asked Tommy Tuberville if he could spell them out for us. He didn't want to appear on tape, but I looked it up on YouTube, and Tommy Tuberville. Let's see, can I find this? Let's start with that. Just to justify the reference to the Trump University of Alt Understanding or Alternative Understanding. Oh yeah, here it is. So here's a couple of items. We'll begin here. In an Alabama Daily News, did I mention that he was from the state of Alabama? I think I did. He's a senator, I believe, elected in 2020. Tommy Tuberville interview in an Alabama Daily News interview after the election. Tommy Tuberville said that the European theater of World War II was fought, quote, to free Europe of socialism. Well, that's not exactly correct, is it? Since our ally at that time was Joseph Stalin, right? Who was a Soviet communist, and our allies, included, not just Stalin, but also Great Britain and a number of European countries, who didn't surrender and allow the Nazis to run their nations for brief periods of time. And of course, our allies also included individuals like Charles de Gaulle, who we mentioned a couple of days ago, who was not strictly speaking a socialist, but wasn't engaged in a struggle against socialism, was he? He was engaged in a struggle against Hitler and the fascist dictators that were dominating Europe at that time. Who also included Mussolini and others. And that's Caspar Hauser's learning. Well, no, that's not Caspar Hauser's learning curve. That's actually Fiverr munching away on a bone. There he is. He's a little brief interlude there. Well, I film him, but that's where that noise was coming from. But the threat was a group of like-minded, dictators that, generally we refer to as fascists, and generally we understand that the war against, fascist Spain and fascist Italy and even, the Japanese, the emperor, it was a war against world domination, in this time of dictators and fascism. That's generally understood. But I guess this is an alternative understanding of the stakes of World War II. And then we asked him about the three branches of the U.S. federal government, and his answers were, and he said this with an Alabama accent. I won't repeat it because I might, offend someone who has a similar Alabama accent, either to Tommy Tuberville or to what I produce in reproducing Tommy Tuberville's accent. But he commented that the three branches of government were the House, the Senate, and the executive. I'm not sure the executive, I guess, office, but it's elided here, so it's a little ambiguous. It could just be the executive, maybe the I'm not sure what, executive furnishings perhaps. He also said that he was looking forward to raising money from his Senate office, as if there was no such thing as the Hatch Act. We've talked about the Hatch Act already. And you can go back and you can find that, or you can just look up the Hatch Act. But he's very eager, to use his place in the Senate to make some cash. Tuberville's comments attracted criticism. I don't know why. In under the conditions of our democracy today, that would attract any criticism. Here's his platform. Tuberville opposes the right to an abortion and favors repealing the Affordable Care Act. He supports Trump's proposal for a wall on the border with Mexico, probably thinks that Mexico will pay for it along with Trump through tariffs that won't make their way to the products at Walmart. Tuberville supports reducing the national debt through cuts to social programs, but opposes cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Well, until they're made, and then we'll see. He dismisses the science of climate change. Why that be a surprise? Saying that the global climate won't change enough in the next 400 years to affect anybody. Well, of course, it's only 4 years later, and it's already changed enough to affect everybody. But I mean, aren't there raging fires, the mountain fire in California right now, like destroying thousands or millions of acres of California territory? Isn't that going on? And hasn't stuff like that been going on? And wasn't there just like a big, hurricane or something in Florida and along the coast? Did I just imagine that, or I'm not sure. Okay, so well, you can make these predictions. 400 years is a long time, to predict without any reference to anything that belongs, even vaguely, right, to an understanding of climatology. But I guess you don't have to be. It's the Trump University of alternative understanding. So it plays out, in the physics of it all. Meteorology under the Trump, University of Alternate Understanding isn't what it is to some other university. Let's put it that way. On March 3rd, 2020, Tuberville received 33.4% of the vote in the Republican primary, ahead of former United States Senator and former General Attorney Jeff Sessions, who received 31.6%. Now, remember why Jeff Sessions was out? Jeff Sessions was out because he had a relationship with the Russians, and he had it for some time, and he'd met with Russian ambassadors and perhaps Putin himself, and also I believe had a relationship with Michael Flynn and what Michael Flynn was doing with the Russians, and then in the Russian interference case, he recused himself, which he should have done earlier, right? But waited, some time before recusing himself, and but it was just, simply like the law. That's what one does. Like if you're the judge, and you're prosecuting, your daughter. Someone's prosecuting your daughter, and you're sitting on the bench, and you need to let people know that this is your daughter, and recuse yourself so that you don't have a vested stake in the results of the prosecution and which way the trial goes, right? Well, I mean, this was essentially the same thing, but Mr. Tommy Tuberville referred to, and I'm no don't think I'm a fan of Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions is this Weasley, mousy, little racist white guy that is totally despicable. I can't stand Jeff Sessions, and he's just like all these other white guys from Alabama. He's a total racist. But the rationale for referring to Jeff Sessions as slime that Tommy Tuberville made was in relationship to his decision to recuse himself from this Russian interference case. That he there was every expectation that he had to do this thing. So, but that's not the way that it works in the Trump universe of alternative understanding, right? If you have a vested stake in the outcome, right, of a trial, you should be involved in that trial, not recuse yourself from it. He wasn't a man enough. We have all this toxic masculinity going on now, and it's probably why Trump got elected in the first place. You're not a man unless you're sufficiently toxic, So whatever a man used to be, now it's defined by, being an asshole, basically. And he wasn't man enough to. I wonder if we'll be censored for saying asshole. We'll see. Man enough to stand with President Trump when things got tough. Well, gosh, when things get tough, I always do what Daddy says. That's what a big man I am. And of course, we've formally referred to Mr. Chad Wolf, as the world's oldest living baby boy. But according to Tommy Tuberville, it's not a baby boy that does what Daddy daddy tells them to do. It's a tough guy. Tough guys do what their daddies tell them to do. And if you're not man enough to do what daddy tells you, you shouldn't be in the White House, and you shouldn't be a part of the administration, and you probably shouldn't be in politics at all. But he was sure looking forward to making all that money. Some more information. Tuberville was heavily favored to win, anti-abortion, of course. There's the stuff on the House and everything else. I like this one. Well, he was very eager to make money in his position as a senator, and I guess he did, because it says here, Tuberville violated the Stock Act, which is a little bit different from the Hatch Act, isn't it? We haven't looked that up yet, I don't believe. 32 times in 2021. Oh no, not 32, 132 times. I mean, it's like that's once every 2.5 days, right? At least once, and more than once every 3 days, right? Oh my gosh. So the Stock Act, we're gonna look up the Stock Act, and there's some stuff here about cryptocurrency. In May 2022, Tuberville introduced the Financial Freedom Act, which would allow for the inclusion of cryptocurrency in individual retirement accounts. I'm sure that was like real popular with crazy people. Democrats are pro-crime, another thing he learned at Trump University. Want to take over everything you've got and want reparation. I think he spelled it wrong, because they think the people that do the crime are owed that. It's ungrammatical as well as idiotic, but that's what they teach at the Trump University of Alternative Understanding. Apparently, these remarks are widely condemned as inaccurate and racist. It's amazing that, you know, a white Alabama senator could possibly be racist. For example, the NAACP called them flat out racist, ignorant, and utterly sickening. It seems pretty accurate. He referred to Vladimir Zelensky as a dictator, but he likes Putin. So Putin's not a dictator, but Zelensky is, for protecting his country against Putin. Also says that, he said that Vladimir Putin doesn't want Ukraine. I guess that goes into that category of facts that belong to nothing. Climate change isn't going to do anything to anyone in the next 400 years, I guess. That category of alternative facts. He doesn't want Europe. Hell, he's got enough land of his own. Yeah, he's got a big farm right outside of Moscow. He just wants to make sure he doesn't, where am I? He just wants to make sure he doesn't have United States weapons in Ukraine pointing at Moscow. Okay, so, that doesn't make any sense. But, again, Trump University of Alternate Understanding. And then we'll get on to, okay, so I think, first let's look up the Stock Act, and then we'll come back to objections, and because we are talking about, January 6th and all of that, we'll come back to objections to the 20, but I just wanted to set up like what the Trump University of Alternative Understanding actually teaches before I get to like the point that we were making in this particular incident. But let's look up the Stock Act. And see what that exactly is, because apparently Tommy T violated this once every 3 days in, 2021, I think, and then there was some violation of something else in 2022. An original bill to prohibit members of Congress and employees of Congress from using private information derived from their official positions for personal benefit and for other purposes. And with this bill, members of Congress are no longer allowed to use information garnered through their official business for personal reasons. The Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge Stock Act prohibits members and employees of Congress from using any non-public information derived from the individual's position or gained from performance of the individual's duty. So like it sounds like kind of like an insider trading thing where information is gathered because this individual has special access to special information, due to or because of his position or her position, I suppose, as a senator or some other, having some other position in the government, whether state or federal. It doesn't say that, oh, this is members of Congress, so only members of Congress, so the House and the Senate. Two of the branches of government, right? The Congress composes two of the three branches of our government, the House, the Senate, and the executive furniture are the three branches of our government, according to the Trump University of Alternative Understanding. With this bill in place, members of Congress are no longer allowed to use information garnered through official business or personal reasons. The Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge Stock Act prohibits members and employees of Congress from using any public information derived from the individual's position or gained from performance of the individual's duties for personal benefit. That's 132 violations, or approximately a little bit more than one violation every 3 days in 2021. His first year in office, he violated this law a little bit more than once every 3 days. Okay, let's go back to Tom YouTuberville. So this is why he's in this particular narrative within our universe, or the universe of the meta multi sci-fi converse. Objections to the 2020 U.S. presidential election. So after taking office in January 2021, Tuberville joined a group of Republican senators who announced they would formally object to counting electoral votes. Okay, so no January 6th, hence the reference to that aspect of the Constitution that and those articles that explain what happens on January 6th, right? Okay, so counting electoral votes won by Democratic President-elect Joe Biden, if you can believe that Joe Biden actually won the election. I mean, does anyone still really believe that? I mean, we've been putting up with this lie long enough, right? So now YouTube has justificate that was sarcasm. So I have to spell out like when I'm sarcastic, because otherwise ThermostatAnon will censor the video. I was being sarcastic. Won by Democratic President-elect Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential election. The objections were part of a continued effort by Trump and his allies to overturn his defeat of the election. And we would have had the same thing if Trump had lost. But of course, Trump didn't lose. Kamala Harris lost I believe both the popular vote and the electoral count, and had the good sense and law and order following ability to concede the election. Gosh, imagine something like that. Well, that just shows how weak she is, right? Because she's not, and she's certainly not man enough, to violate the law and create, enough stochastic terrorism and inspire an insurrection the way that our hero Donald J. Trump did on January 6th, 2021. Anyway, when the Electoral College count was held on January 6th, pro-Trump rioters stormed the Capitol, forcing officials to evacuate their chambers before the count was completed. We just had a space-time travel communication coordinate reference to the count from Zillatron. Count 0, I believe, was the referent, and I don't know if that was prescient, in relationship to this particular video, but I just thought I would, throw that in there. Before the count was completed, Trump contacted Tuberville during the riot through the cell phone of Utah Senator Mike Lee, whom Trump misdialed. The count resumed that evening once the Capitol was secured. Tuberville voted in support of an objection to Arizona's electoral votes. And remember, they recounted them like 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 times. I can't remember. And then even the individuals that did the counting in this conspiracy theory-laden state and project, right? After counting them and finding no evidence of mishandling, you know, and recounting them and finding no evidence of mishandling, and recounting them again and recounting them again, but they still didn't believe it because they weren't going to believe it. They didn't want to believe it. It didn't matter how many times they counted the vote. The count resumed at Tuberville voted in support of an objection to Arizona's electoral votes and an objection to Pennsylvania's electoral votes, which were both won by Biden. He was one of 6 Republican senators to support the former objection and one of 7 to support the latter objection. The remainder of the Senate defeated the objections. No further objections to the electoral votes were debated, and the count concluded on the morning of January 7th. So even in January 6th, he was there, like you know, not following the rules and not following the procedure, and just being a general nuisance, because that's what they teach you at the Trump University of Alternate Understanding. Okay, and then his relationship to the 2021 storming of the United States Capitol. He voted against creating an independent commission to investigate the storming of the Capitol because only, not enough police officers died, I guess, to merit an investigation, even though from the very outset, the FBI and other organizations were very much interested in prosecuting the terrorists who took part in the January 6th insurrection. And then, of course, he's an anti-abortionist, and so just, you know, one of these individuals who believe that women don't have rights, and of course he's anti-gay marriage, and all of these weird laws that, you know, tell the rest of us how we're supposed to live. And I don't really understand it. Like, I don't really care what, you know, Tommy Tuberville does with, you know, his sex organs. Why does he care what, you know, I do with mine? Transgender policy, same idea. You get it, you know, like, we want to, if you're different from us, then you're either going to stop being different from us, or we're going to kill you. So it goes on and on and on. Let's see, is there anything that we haven't done that I promised that we would do? Let's go back to the image and see if there's anything else that we haven't addressed here. We haven't addressed those big ears, but that's not really Tommy Tuberville's fault, is it? So let's not make too much of an issue about that. The text at the top reads, evidently Senator Tommy Tuberville can't read because a contract, that's us, a contract in Phi through Theta, does have a record of his acknowledgement of receipt of our memo. And the receipt of our memo is, this is the procedure. This is how you, if you want to make an objection on January 6th, this is the procedure. We sent that memo to him. I don't know, anticipating that, you know, he might make objections, and I guess he just didn't read it. This is part of what the Constitution says about how January 6th is handled, and Tommy Tuberville failed to do that. But those ears make him look good when he dances. You can see, even with that fisheye, he's still quite a handsome old white guy. So that's that, and there's some text at the bottom. File under, that's when we were still doing file unders. We don't really do file unders anymore. We do footnotes. Today, if I were going to redo this, I would make it a footnote. File under, medical study reveals inability to read among 100% of those suffering from Q-MAGAnon madness. So that's, I guess, another symptom. I'm glad I looked at that. So another symptom of the Q-MAGAnon madness, in addition to the fisheye, the rage, the expressions, you know, the
facial expressions of disgust and fear and anger, like that we see in often in on some of these Q-Maganists' faces, including Lindsey Graham is one of them, who makes that snarl. You see that's the Lindsey Graham snarl, but that's a result of the Q-Maganon virus, and the inability to read. I mean, I don't know if Tommy Tuberville ever could read in our universe, but presumably he could at one time, but no longer because he didn't read our memo, wasn't able to follow the procedures, and acquire new information. Excuse me. I think we're at about 40 minutes. Let's move on and see if we can talk about the next image. All right. Anybody recognize this guy? Who remembers William Barr? Attorney General, originally like pretty strong Q-Maganite or Q-Maganist. I'm not sure what the form is. Originally a pretty strong. This text, this text is irrecoverable. I remember it was really funny and interesting, and I used to have an image of it somewhere, and maybe it exists as a separate slide, but I think we've lost this text, so I can't talk about it. Although you just have to take my word that it's funny and probably has something to do with American Mensa, which I always thought was kind of a joke. These individuals who want to be in a club for smart people. It's kind of like like Trump wanting to be in a club for fascist dictators or something. They have pretentious ideas about themselves, what I always thought was smart, like individuals like Albert Einstein, who have ideas and theories and generate new forms and ideas of understanding our world, or someone like Shakespeare who writes and produces voluminously, genius, literature and story. But the people who I don't think are very smart are people who belong to clubs that tell them they're smart, but really all they do is whatever the club does, meet and pretend to be smart around one another. Okay, so anyway, there's not much respect there for American Mensa. What is it? I don't even know what the acronym means. We could look that up again too and find out. But here he's wearing a mask, so even though we don't support any of the policies regarding safety and all this around COVID, but we still wear a mask. So there's a certain amount of hypocrisy among all these people who pretend not to believe in this virus, but who nevertheless take steps to protect themselves, from receiving it, right? And or maybe he's, maybe he thinks he's protecting himself. This really could be an ambiguity in the plot. Does he think that does he not know, that those horns, right, are a symptom of the Q-Maganon virus, and he thinks he's protecting himself from the Q-Maganon virus, or does he think he's protecting himself from the COVID virus? I mean, that's, that, I don't know if that was ever solved in the unfolding of this storyline. So what the Murdoch are these horns supposed to represent? So he clearly doesn't understand what he's in the grip of, and the great beast, the Megatherion, right? So these are beastly horns that belong to the Megatheron or Megatherion, the great beast, and the redness, right, refers to the aspect as Sith, and the 2525 project, which now has just become the 2025 project. They simplified it for our time and space, but it was originally the 2525 project. What the Murdoch, that's a use of figurative language in the same way that Pence was used of figurative language, but of course the word that it refers to here is the F word, the famous F word, right? And of course the Rupert in Murdoch is unstated, but implied. What the Rupert Murdoch are these horns supposed to represent? You can't see it, but trust me, that's the word right there. What these horns supposed to represent. And of course, you know, they're not supposed to represent anything. They're a consequence of you know, the Q-MAGAnon madness, and it's one. This is one expression of it, particularly in relationship to the 25 project, as we already saw with Rudy Giuliani, and whether he thinks the mask is protecting him from that, or he even understands what this virus is, and he thinks the mask is protecting himself from the COVID virus is, again, it's a question that we never really solved in this story, I believe, but maybe we'll come to a point in the storyline that we solve it, and I've just forgotten that we solved it, like if he comes to that awareness of what the horns represent. And then he says, we've got the folks at American Mensa working on that one, sir. So they're going to solve that, like what those horns represent. And then I think this guy has an explanation of precisely what the horns represent, but as I said, that text, which is rather lengthy, you can see, although it's got a big Y, but he's got a lot of, you know, fine print too, that we're not going to be able to recover. So let's do a search for American Mensa, just to solve the mystery of that particular acronym. And we'll move away from the Stock Act at this point, and then we'll probably wrap this up, or we could move on to the next image, but let's see how long it takes us to look up Mensa. We're not members, so it might take us longer. This is the High IQ Society, but what does the acronym designate? I guess if you have a high enough IQ, you would figure that out without looking it up on well, maybe it's not an acronym. It doesn't seem to take on the form of capitalization here. Maybe I need to ask someone. The word mensa is Latin for table. I didn't know that. As is symbolized in the organization's logo, and was chosen to demonstrate the round table nature of the organization. Oh, that's really interesting. So I thought because the M, you know, like leads us on to, you know, mental, and the MEN are the first three letters in mental, that it must have a relationship with that. But I never, first of all, I didn't know that Mensa was a Latin word for table, and it wouldn't have occurred to me that this organization was named after a table, round or otherwise. The round table nature of the organization, but it's weird because in the image, it's not a round table. It looks like a square table or nightstand, doesn't it? Like if you use reification to fill in the three-dimensionality here, I don't know what's sitting on it, the world, I guess. But if you use reification to fill in the three-dimensionality of it, isn't it a cubic stand, not a round table? Is that a problem-solving thing that they do in Mensa? Like figure out like what the relationship is between the square stand and the cubic stand and the round table? nature of the organization, the coming together of equals. And I see the roundness on the top, but I don't see how that's a table. That looks like a representation of a globe or something else. What else do they say about their insignia? As is symbolized in the organization's logo. So they think that that's a table, and I can see how it's a table rather than a stand. It's very low to the ground or very thick, but I don't see how it represents a round table. Seems to be some conceptual problems in the way that the Mensenites conceive of themselves, but I won't get into all of that. So now we've learned what Mensa means. We've got the folks at American. I don't know why he capitalized it. I mean, he must think it's an acronym too. Or maybe this is a different organization, and I just I never figured that part of the storyline out. Maybe it's not, you know, the American Mensa that we just looked up, but something else. So now I'm really interested in determining what this organization is, and it does appear to be, you know, an acronym. And let's look up the acronym Mensa and see if we can determine what else it might mean. Okay, that's not an acronym. This all goes back to Mensa, but not acronym. They tell us that Mensa isn't an acronym, but what I'm looking for is under what instances is Mensa an acronym? Isn't it interesting? Okay, so it's Latin. Here's another one. Mensa, an organization for people with a high intelligence quotient. You know, definitely Trump should get there via man, woman, table, cell phone. Mensa, name and list of people with the given name. Mensa constellation. Mensa ecclesiastical, a portion of church property that is appropriated to defray the expenses of either the private or the community, or the prelate. How do you say this word? Prelate, or community that serves the church. Mensa geology, an extraterrestrial area of raised land. None of those sound right, and I think it's an acronym. So I still want to stick with acronym. Can we put acronym in quotation marks so that it forces the search? Oops, I spelled it wrong though. Try to force the, oops, still did it wrong. Trying to force the search here. It's only going to tell me that Mensa isn't an acronym, but I want an acronym that is Mensa. No, it's not an acronym. Well, there's got to be some acronym that's Mensa. Mensa acronym list from Maryland. None of these are Mensa though. They're acronym lists, but they're not Mensa. Let's see. Oh, here. No, that's still not an acronym. Murph is the closest we can do. Well, all right. Well, we're gonna have to figure this out, you know, at some other time. I'm not sure that it's entirely worth pursuing, you know, based on our intuition that it might be an acronym for something, and that we might be misinterpreting what's going on here. Let's just take it as the organization, and this guy, misinterpreting the organization's name, table, a round table idea that's represented as a cubic nightstand.